you're solving the wrong problem. And so is everyone you know. The problem you spent the week on isn't the one that's quietly costing you. The real one is smaller, quieter. It's also a little ruder, if I'm being honest about it. It's the one you've been walking past since Tuesday without quite looking at it. Charlie Munger had a name for the move that turns you back around to face it. Munger didn't invent the move. He borrowed it, openly, from a German mathematician nobody outside physics classrooms reads anymore. Carl Gustav Jacob Jacobi. Jacobi had a line, "Man muss immer umkehren, man muss immer umkehren. One must always invert." He meant it as a problem-solving trick. You're stuck on a hard equation, you can't see the shape of the answer from where you're standing, so you turn it around and ask what the answer isn't. A lot of the time, the answer walks out to meet you. Munger took the mathematician's trick and pointed it at a life. The way he put it, condensed from an old talk at USC, all he wanted to know was where he was going to die, so he'd never go there. That's the whole move in one sentence. Don't ask how to get there. Ask where you'd be if you failed, and stop going. And it isn't new. Seneca was rehearsing shipwreck and exile and fire in his head 1,500 years before Jacobi wrote the Latin down. The Stoics had a practice for it, the mathematician had an equation for it, and by the time Munger got to it, the move had been quietly traveling under different names for the better part of 2,000 years. He just turned it into a question. So why does flipping the question beat chasing the answer? Because your brain was already running the trick. You just weren't listening to it in that direction. In 1979, two psychologists, Kahneman and Amos Tversky, published a paper that eventually won one of them a Nobel. The short version they came to later is this: losses loom larger than gains. About twice as much. That's not a metaphor. I want to be careful here, because I think people hear it as one, and then they move on. I mean it literally. If you lose $100 you earned on Wednesday, the pain of losing it is, on average, about twice the pleasure of finding $100 you didn't earn at all. That's not a moral judgment on your nervous system. That's just the shape of your nervous system. It isn't broken, it's tuned. Which means, and here's the part nobody quite warns you about, you were already built to run Munger's move. You've been running it all along. Every time you flinched at a risk and didn't take the shot, you were doing inversion. You were just doing it on the wrong questions. On the small ones, where the downside was small enough that the wiring was making you smaller without anyone needing to pay for it. Turn the same wiring on the large questions, the ones that actually decide what your life looks like in a year, and it starts to work for you instead of against you. Avoiding stupidity goes with your wiring. Chasing brilliance goes against it. Munger knew this in his bones, and he gave the most useful demonstration of it almost by accident at a high school graduation in 1986. The school in question was Harvard, not the university, the prep school his son attended. And Munger wasn't asked to give a how to succeed speech. Well, he was, he just refused. Instead, he gave the speech inverted. He called it a list of prescriptions for guaranteed misery in life. If you wanted to waste the 50 years in front of you, here, as a small favor, were the instructions. Two of the items are worth sitting with. The first, learn only from your own experience, not from the accumulated wisdom of anyone who came before you. If you're going to reinvent the wheel, reinvent it alone, and reinvent every wheel, and do it in your own century. The second, when your first serious reversal comes, stay down. When the second comes, stay down longer. Treat each setback as proof that the thing wasn't worth getting up for in the first place. Those are the prescriptions. That's how you guarantee the misery. Now here's the move. If you want to know what a person actually has to do to live well, you don't need a separate speech. You just take the misery list and flip it. There's a passage of Munger's that floats around online, paraphrased plenty, but correct enough in spirit, that goes something like this. You don't have a lot of envy. You don't overspend your income. You stay cheerful in spite of your troubles. You deal with reliable people. You do what you're supposed to do. Every clause of that is a misery prescription, turned exactly the other way around. He didn't invent two lists. He wrote one list and inverted it. The positive version was already sitting there, in the negative space of the negative version, waiting for someone to turn around and read the page backwards. Which is, more or less, all inversion ever is. Warren Buffett put the cost of it sharper. Paraphrased, because I don't have the verbatim line in front of me. But the substance is clean enough. The biggest mistakes of his career weren't the bad investments he made. They were the good ones he didn't. Google, Amazon. Between them, tens of billions of dollars of upside that never showed up on Berkshire's books. Not because of a bad call, because of no call at all. The decision that cost him the most was the decision he never got around to making. And that's the thing about the cost of not inverting. It doesn't show up. It's a bill that never arrives in the mail. If you'd made the hire and it had gone badly, you'd feel that one. If you'd had the hard conversation and it had landed wrong, you'd feel that one too. When you simply don't make the hire and you don't have the conversation, the cost is invisible. You pay it by what your life isn't. And most of us aren't Buffett. We aren't losing 20 billion in Google. We're losing smaller things. The hire you keep putting off. The book you've opened 3 times and never actually finished. The conversation you're circling without landing. The raise you never asked for. The email you've been drafting in your head for a month instead of sending in 2 minutes. These aren't the mistakes you made. They're the ones you keep not making. And I want to be careful here, because this is exactly the corner where this kind of advice tends to go bad. I'm not telling you to add more to the pile. That's the opposite of the point. I'm telling you to subtract less. There's a real difference between the two. The ambitious move isn't one more thing on the list. The ambitious move is the one thing you've been refusing to see, quietly, which is already sitting on the list of things you're avoiding. So, here's your move. Take the question you've been asking yourself all week, the one you keep circling without answering. Something like, how do I get better at this? How do I win this one? How do I make this actually work? Good. Hold that question in your head for a second. Now, gently, turn it around. What's the version of this that's guaranteed to make it worse? What am I already doing that would fit cleanly onto Munger's list of prescriptions for misery? What's the one small move that if I stopped doing it tomorrow morning would quietly clear the whole path? Not the heroic thing, the ugly, specific, slightly embarrassing thing I keep sliding past every time I walk through the room it lives in. That's your answer. Not the big ambitious thing you came into this video hoping I would hand you. The small, ugly thing that was already sitting there, on the other side of the question you were too polite to ask yourself. You might already know what it is. Most people do. The work of inversion isn't figuring out what the answer is. Your nervous system was going to tell you what the answer was the second you stopped running from it. The work is agreeing to stop running, agreeing to write it down, agreeing that the next time the moment arrives, the moment when you'd normally walk past the hire, or the book, or the email, or the honest sentence you owe someone, this time, you stop instead. Just stop. You don't have to do the thing yet. You don't have to be brave about it. You just have to not keep walking past it. That's the move. That's what inversion actually asks of you on a Tuesday morning. Small, ugly, yours. Your wiring knew the answer. Munger just gave it a name. So tomorrow morning, when you pour the coffee and open the laptop and feel that small, familiar urge to keep walking past the thing you've been walking past all week, maybe this time you don't, and instead you just stop for a second at the edge of it and let yourself see it honestly for the first time in weeks. You don't have to fix it today, and you don't have to tell anyone about it, and you don't have to be brave about it. You just have to stop pretending it isn't there. If this helped, subscribe. 1 stone a day.